like to introduce him, and as one of India's leading naturalists and field biologists. He carried out a study on the dholes in Bandipur Tiger Reserve in the late 1970s. It was the first such study on a free-ranging large mammal in India. He researched at the Smithsonian Institution in the USA and uh, and served at Bombay Natural History Society for some time. And after serving for 20 years at the Wildlife Institute of India, he retired in 2005 as Dean Faculty. His popular books are Field Days, A Naturalist's Journey Through South and Southeast Asia, a fabulous read that, Walking the Western Ghats, another great book, and On Jim Corbett's Trail and Other Tales from the Jungle, all wonderful books. As the senior editor, as the senior editor, he's published 2 volumes of the Mammals of South Asia, a must-have for all Indian wildlifers. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Award by the Society for Conservation Biology, the Carl Zeiss Wildlife Conservation Award, both in 2004, the ABN AMRO Sanctuary Lifetime Wildlife Service Award in 2005, the Kirloskar Vasundhara Samman in 2014, and the Salim Ali Conservation Award in 2015. Dr. John Singh is associated with Nature Conservation Foundation, popularly known as NCF, the WWF India, Corbett and Corbett Foundation. He represented the Standing Committee on the National Board for Wildlife, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, and he is on the Uttarakhand State Wildlife Board. Presently, he is a member of Karnataka State Wildlife Board.
I am in a presentation later. Yeah.
He has dedicated his life to the conservation of endangered mammals, landscapes, corridors, and believe it or not, the Mahasir. And I think also to creating wonderful naturalists amongst his students. Dr. John Singh, over to you.
Okay, I mean, you can see the screen.
Not
Yes,
yet.
we can.
Who said no?
No, we can.
We can see it.
We can see it, sir.
We can see it. Please go ahead.
Okay, from here, if I want to change, go to the next screen, what should I do?
Right arrow, sir.
Right click.
Right arrow. Arrow on your keyboard. The right arrow on your keyboard, please.
My computer keyboard.
Yes, computer keyboard, right arrow. You have arrows up, down, left, right.
Can you see me the first slide now?
Yes. Yes.
Second slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go to the first slide actually. Okay, previous. You know, here you see me in the Eraviculam National Park. I mean, some years ago, you know, there was a mountain angle conference, even our Shalher had come. Then the Kurinji was flowering. So me and Madhusudan, you know, you can see that he has taken this picture, and wonderful person actually. And it was taken there. Okay. Now, when you think about how to become a naturalist, I would say that knowledge can come from others, books, and more importantly, should come from your own observations. That's very, very important. That will be long-lasting actually, but it takes a lot of time. You can't, you know, learn about nature within a short period of time. It's a lifelong journey actually. So, you know, most of us go into the forest looking for animals, and priority is, you know, we should see the animals before the animals see you. That's very important. Particularly when you are walking in the elephant country. You know, I fortunately had done a lot of walking in the elephant country. We should hear the elephants before they hear you. I mean, silence is very important. I saw this beautiful, I mean, phrase written in Periyar. To listen to the song of the forest, your silence is a must. Both are very, very important, particularly when you walk in the elephant country. When you see animals, if you want to approach them, if the light is behind, that is ideal because animal cannot see. And if the wind is blowing from the animal to you, that is even more ideal because it is difficult for the animal to smell and see you. So, this is all very important. People, when you go into the forest, one should be in what you call the field dress, which will merge with the surroundings. Can't go in gaudy colors, and better to have a good pair of binoculars, a digital camera. And in the forest now, one should use all the five senses. I mean, that's very, very important to understand nature actually. And always get an opportunity to walk in the forest because if you walking in the jungle, it hones your field skills. Driving, does not give you that much of experience in the forest. And this is need to be a constant touch actually. You do go for one day walk, you can't say that I have understood that area. One has to do that repeatedly. Now, I think I securely one has to make use of all your senses. For example, here we have a picture of a tiger, maybe the first best picture taken in Bandipur and even for South India, I will say, on 23rd May 1978, I was up in a mango tree. And I located the place because smelling the tiger spray. But at Nalla in Bandipur, some 2 kilometers from Bandipur proper, and it was like walking close to the tiger zoo, lot of tiger spray. So then I thought, this area will be used by tiger, and I was very keen to, take a picture of the tiger, which no one had done in Bandipur actually. And as I told you, possibly it is a black and white picture, you can make a huge enlargement. If you go to WWF India office, that upstairs in the guest room, Ravi Singh made a big blow of this picture and put up. But remember, 50% of the human population cannot smell tiger spray. Because I had taken diploma trainees in other trainees in Rajaji Corbett. When we walk, when you smell the tiger spray, which is more like, people say ammonia smell or like basmati rice. I used to ask the trainees, do you smell? I found 50% of the trainees could not smell. And in the forest, it's very important to know how to climb. It's very, very important. When I wanted to take this picture, I selected a mango tree in the middle of Nalla. It had a straight pole, and I can't climb the tree with a straight pole. So I put a rope, tied a rope with the help of my tribal kitchen. Is no more, unfortunately. Excellent tribal kurba. And with that, I used to climb and wait whenever I had some free time. Say wild dogs, when they make a kill and eat, well, next day they won't hunt. So such a time, I will go and wait for the tiger. Early morning, I go 2 kilometers, we walk to the tree from Bandipur and climb the tree and wait till say 10, 11 and come back. And on that day, when I took this picture, there was wild dog along path. They make a sound when they encounter tiger. So I knew that the tiger is coming in my direction. There were langur up in the tree, but they failed to see the tiger when it was walking through the tall grass and coming. But unfortunately, the tall grass and all disappeared now. In Bandipur, Lantana has taken where I went to that area some years ago. I found the tall grass and all taken over of Lantana. Enormous degradation caused by Lantana actually. Now I'm showing a nice picture of this what they call tiger's nest in Bhutan. I was lucky to climb to this. They are twice, okay, and I don't know how the Bhutanese built it. Fabulous thing. So second time when I went, I saw an American tourist, and with him is a Bhutanese guide. And the Bhutanese people are exceedingly fit. When we talk about fitness, they are excellent examples actually. Okay. So when we're coming down, this American lady, she was weighing 90 kilos. She twisted her ankle. She could not walk. And this last 2 kilometers, to the car parking area, this guide carried it like carrying a baby. Okay. As I told you, if you want to think about fitness, we should have fitness like this, Bhutanese. Okay. And every time you go to the forest, you will learn something new. Even the palest thing is more powerful than the strongest memory. That means, when you see something, better to write down on your notebook. And that's very, very important. If you think that you will keep it in your memory, you will be, you're wrong and you'll forget it actually. And in the forest, one has to remember the line between adventure and accident is very, very thin. And this, when I was doing my study, that one, N.R. Nair, he was an acting director of the Wildlife Institute, come to Bandipur with some 7 trainees. And one trainee officer was Mr. Savarkar, who later became the director. So they wanted to come with me to the jungle. I told him, see, I'm not supposed to take people on foot in Bandipur because Forest Department told don't take outsiders on foot. Then the Nair told me, see, I belong to the Indian Forest Service. We have the freedom of the forest. I can go anywhere. And you take me, nothing will happen to you. So one day I took the trainees. Next day, Mr. Nair came. Second day, he wanted to come. Unfortunately, when he saw the tusker, he wanted to go and take picture. I told him, don't do that because the wind is blowing towards the tusker. It's on a flat terrain. We cannot run. We cannot escape. So wait for some time, let it cross and go. But he told me, I know about elephants much better than you. He's actually pushed me and then went ahead. Unfortunately, the tusker came in. Killed him. Okay. And I write about it in my field days, in that book, that the story is written up. And, better to develop competence in one or two taxa. Plant identification is exceedingly crucial because without knowing the plants, you can't understand the forest. You can't understand the species living there actually. For example, Ravi Kumar, my colleague, my friend in Bangalore. So when I retired and I was coming to Bangalore for living, for my retired life, I asked my colleague Rawat, who can help you in plant identification? So he told the name of Ravi Kumar, and I find him exceedingly, useful because whenever I go and I see a new plant, I take a picture, send to him, and he helps in identification. And this is Dr. Rawat, an amazing field botanist. This is in 93. I took the picture when I went on the Jim Corbett train. Both of us went for 10 days. We visiting to different places. And, this place is close to the temple tiger story. He's looking at a barking deer skull. And, his house is, his village is below this, what I call, Uttaranchal, Panchuli Peak. So you grew up in that altitude, so it's exceedingly fit. And okay, so I read Jim Corbett's story. My Tamil, first, I read the Tamil version of the Jim Corbett story. And then later, when I went to St. Xavier's College, Palangutai, I could read all the English books. And what fascinated me was about the Chambawat man-eater. That's the first man-eater shot by Jim Corbett. And there, he shoots 3 gural. And he goes to looking for the man-eater at the Pali village, he will stay. And he will tell the villagers, that let's go and shoot some gural, 2 for the village, 1 for my people. So he gives a very nice description of the gural habitat. And I know if you read the Chambawat man-eater story, you can understand. So I had an idea about the gural habitat. So my first visit to the Chilla range, Rajaji National Park, was in 1982. So when I went there, I told the ACF who was with me looking at the hills, I told him there should be gural. He told me there is no gural there. But, I joined the institute in 85 and Dr. Rawat joined in 86. So one day in Rajaji looking at a hill, I told Rawat, looks like a gural habitat, let's go. Rawat being from the Himalayas, you would have eaten gural also. So anyhow, both of us went up. And within 2 hours, we saw 5 gural. So I thought I should take a good picture of gural. Again, nobody had taken a good picture of all these days. So on the hilltop, selected a Gruvia elastica tree. In summer, I used to climb and wait. And I got the best picture of gural ever taken in the wild. They came grazing. It came very close to me. He saw me. And then look at the, surprise look. I took the picture, it ran away. And, in the Ganges, in summer, I mean, there is one place closer to Haridwar that is on the Chilla side of the Rajaji Park. Elephants used to come there at night because daytime, a lot of disturbance on that, road to Rishikesh from Chilla. Night, elephants used to come to drink because I found it from the, what do you call it, dung and the tracks. I knew the place also, a place called Motichur Rao in Chilla, opposite of that in Ganges. I told my colleague Rawat, let us go and wait for the elephant. So we selected a bank, a high bank, and both of us went, but Rawat did not bring his camera. So we took what they call pillows and everything from the Chilla rest house, sat there comfortably. And we told one of our drivers, I mean, excellent driver working in Wildlife Institute, to come around 11 o'clock at night. So we thought we will wait till it's a May, hot, but the water, snow melt water is very cold. So around 10:30, I was telling Rawat, better we go back and the elephants may not come. And they completed saying that, two elephants came running from Chilla and they plunged into the water. You can see one tusk to the left also, the white. And Haridwar outside there's a lot of light also. I took picture in those days with that slide film with the flash and took a picture. They both of them ran away from the pool. Then waited for some time. We were very quiet. We were not sitting very high actually. And then they were rumbling. They came into the water. Then nearly for 20, 30 minutes, they were playing there, drinking because water was very cold and May can be very hot in Rajaji, some 40, 45 degrees it can reach. I took this picture. And elephants, I think, may not use a trunk to pull down a human. It would have easily reached us, but it didn't do. We were quietly sitting and watching. So interestingly, next day, all my colleagues, one Prasad and Rawat and everybody took the camera and we waited. The elephants did not come. I was very happy. This South India, we have two communities called tribal communities, Malasar in Anamalai and Kurbas in Bandipur. Bandipur and Nagarkode. Their knowledge of elephant is excellent actually. And we should not lose their knowledge actually. It's very, very important. Because one day in Nagarkode in Belle Elephant Camp, I saw this tusker in Must. And it was free actually. And the Mahat was leaving, the tusker was moving away and going. So I asked him, don't you think it's very dangerous to leave a bull elephant in Must? And he told me, sir, no, don't worry. Look at that axe. I have put it on the pinna. So the elephant knows that I am still controlling it. So I can go anywhere. Elephant will not move from this place. That type of understanding, comes because these people, they grow with elephants. One day when I was going in Nagarkode, I saw these two young boys. They were sitting on the back of this young female elephant. And that elephant was running fast. And those fellows were very happy. And the elephant was also to me looked like very happy. And, and they had the confidence because, they grow and live with elephants. And in this culture, should be protected at all costs if we want to have good captive elephant management. In South India, we even 9 feet tusker, the rogue, if they can capture and train in 3 months. This capability is not there even in Assam. So in South India, these two tribal communities, Malasar community in the case of Anamalai and Kurubas in Bandipur and Nagarkode should be taken care very well. Okay. So after I went to Dehradun Wildlife Institute of India, we started a research project on elephants. 2 students worked with me. One, Justin Joshua from Tamil Nadu and Steve Williams from Tamil Nadu. Both were studying elephants. And I radio collar in total some 12 elephants. This is one of the bull elephants which radio called Big Boss. And why did we call him Big Boss? He was very gentle and, early we could go closer to him and he never became aggressive. So one day I saw him. I was alone that day. I had black and white camera and the color camera. He was on a rich top and 30 feet steep wall. I was sitting and watching him. The wind was blowing from me towards him. He knew me. I was there. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. There was somebody talking. Okay. So he knew He was swaying this way, that way, stretching the trunk towards me. I took at least nearly 40 pictures, black and white and color also. Recently there is some conversation going about radio collaring elephants in near Haridwar. So I sent the black and white picture to Mr. Bist and Bhuvash Pandav and Dhananjay Mukha. Okay. But see that habitat degradation being caused by the Gujars in Rajaji. The Gujars were there. Unfortunately, they practice polygamy and 4 wives, 16 children, and but now they this chilla, they have been relocated and amazing recovery. And the tigers are doing very well. And if you go and see this forest, for example, now all vegetation would have recovered actually. Okay. Now, I had one very touching experience with the elephants in Haridwar. One young calf, maybe 2-year-old male calf, was injured by the railway by train. Its hip was broken. It was crawling between Motichur and Haridwar. It was crawling on the ground. The mother was there. They stopped the train traffic for 2 days. And because train came, it will go and rush toward the train. And there are 500 people watching. The forest department, they tried their level best to chase the elephant. They throw the fireball. Even fireball will come and kick. And it become hot. It will kept a very big drum of water. It will come and pick the drum actually. The group was on the other side of the railway track in the Motichur. So then they asked me, what shall we do? I told them, the only option is to kill the calf because the hip is broken and you can't, take the calf, and that's then only the mother will leave. How to kill it? You can't go there with a rifle and shoot the calf because 500 people are watching. So the best is to, immobilize with the drug, immobilon, very potent drug. And one drop, if you put it on your palm, it can kill you actually. So I asked my colleague, Gail, do you have any immobilon? He told me, sir, I have 3 ml of immobilon, which is a bit outdated. I said, okay, let us go with it. That. So we went there from Dehradun to, Haridwar, and the forest department was waiting there, and 500 people watching. The mother was still there. The calf was like a rabbit crawling through the bushes. And I had to approach the calf in an open track with a team of armed guards because the mother was extremely aggressive. So I selected 3 guards with all with a double barrel gun, cartridge gun, double barrel gun. So I told them, I'll be sitting at the end, and you people keep gun up. If the elephant comes charging to hit the vehicle, first shot, you fire in the air. And if it's about to hit the vehicle, fire the other shot on the knee of the elephant. So I gave the instruction and we moved towards the calf. And then I found that these 3 people were pointing the gun towards me. I told him, no, this is not the way, let us get back. And told them, no, keep it up. And you should fire only when the elephant charges. First shot up in the air, second shot on the knee of the elephant. Anyhow, I could go fairly close because it was crawling among the bushes. I had only one dart. The dart can be easily deflected. I went and darted. Within few minutes, the calf died because 3 ml is too much for the calf. Once the mother realized, my God, that mother moaned and trumpeted and ran here and there, complaining to the guards of Haridwar. And then eventually, it crossed the railway track, went to the other side. Okay, but the group was also on the other side, in touch with the grieving mother actually. Now then we told the people there we are going to treat the calf. Nearly 10 people were needed to lift the calf and put it in the truck. We went to Rajaji and got it buried actually. No. And see, I'm interested in Mashir, golden Mashir, and now in the blue-filled Mashir and so on. So we used to go to a place called Kolichar. This is just west of Carbet. Amazing place with the diploma class. And we used to cross the river, in 11 places actually. It's a beautiful old British type bungalow is there. We used to stay there. We do a lot of walking there. Then I found the pools have Mashir. So I was wondering from where they come. Eventually, it took a lot of time for me to understand. They all come from Ramanga Dam, which is some 80 kilometers away. So what I'm saying, within a day or two, one will not be able to understand landscape. You need to spend a lot of time. And interesting, like me, no one has understand that, this marshes come from Ramganga Reservoir actually. Okay. Um, and this one of the fish, once we took the diploma class while going, I got this marshir, Mr. Negi, who's no more, unfortunately, a great friend of mine. We walked everywhere, many places in Uttaranchal. He took this picture. And Corbett rightly writes, angling for golden marsh is a sport fit for kings. Now, even in Corbett, Corbett, the Tiger Reserve, we have beautiful rivers and so on. I will say the marshal population is not doing well. The reason is, whenever the marshal go up for spawning in rainy season, they will get killed by the people. But dynamite, they put poison, they put all blockade and everything, they kill them. And I would say that most of the fish, they go out to get killed. Okay. Even once when I was doing a survey in the northern boundary of Corbett, I saw 10 people coming and dynamiting the river in the rainy season. So the best way to save the marsh is to go for catch and release angling. A lot of people will be interested to come and do that, particularly in a state like Uttarakhand, which is very, very, beautiful state for wildlife. I will say the most wonderful state for wildlife in whole of India. No other state can compete with the Uttarakhand for its wildlife diversity. And like, the mountains with the snow leopard and barrel and ibex, Himalayan tahr and everything, elephant, king cobra, and great Indian bustard, golden marsh. It's an amazing, amazing state actually for wildlife. And that's the only way. I mean, you can, till recently, till 2012 in Kaveri, they were allowing angling. A foreigner, when he came, he was paying $120 a day just to catch and release. Then for accommodation, he was paying $40. Unfortunately, some politics came and they had stopped that in Kaveri. And the big marsh of Kaveri is not threatened now, so that's the best way to save the marsh in Uttaranchal. See, 2 years ago, there was a marsh meeting in Bhutan. And then they decided, then they will promote an angling. So what they were discussing was a foreigner, when they come and do that Manas River, which before it enters into Manas, India. In Bhutan, Manas, angling will be allowed. A foreigner will be asked to pay $1,000. So there was a tour operator. I asked him, do you think people will be willing to come and pay so much money? He said, definitely, many will be willing to come and do angling in Bhutan, such a lovely country. Now this Chinese are having an eye on that country also, small country also. This is one thing I understood. Look at the hills. These are all the Goral hills, a good population of sambar. This is, and the poor people of UP, they used to come for grass cutting, what they call the barber grass, and use the barber grass for making rope. And they used to come in winter. So when they're cutting the grass, they'll be on the hilltop, but when they see a jungle crow flying in that valley, they will stop everything and go down and look for some kill. And I myself have seen them taking away 5 sambar kills. One Yasin, one of our assistant staying there for 10 years, he has seen them taking at least 40 sambar kills. So I will say that is one major reason for the decline of tiger number west of Ganges. This again, nobody understood actually. And because if the kills are stolen during the entire winter, if it's a cheetal kill, the tiger will eat everything. But if it's a sambar kill, and a lot of meat will be left, and winter that meat does not rot, and the crows will find it, and these grass cutters will take away. And that pregnant tigers will have abortion, and a mother with young cubs, the cubs will die. That is one major reason for the decline of tiger west of Ganges. In Rajaji. It goes into even to, you've seen elephant, tiger tracks across this, what is the river between Haryana and India. And so now I was told, this barber grass cutting has come down. People have started using plastic for making. And I wish it is under control, actually, barber grass cutting. But this again, people had not understood. Forest department had not understood, actually. Like Forest department told me that there were Goral. And Very interestingly, I used to go to Dolkand often. In those days, me and my colleague Rawat and Goyal. So the DFO, who was worked a ranger as ACF and the DFO in Rajaji, he asked me, Dr. Johnson, why do you go to Rajaji often? So I told him, sir, we are doing a project on Gural, but there's no Gural there. So, I mean, that was the situation actually. So till 87, Rajaji, then it was in UP, they had not included Gurar in the NAMA list actually. Okay. Now there are only 2 tigers left west of Ganges, 2 females, old females. And for Wildlife Institute and Uttaranchal Forest Department, they are planning to reintroduce tigers here. The prey density is very good, very good. Maybe 90 animals per square kilometer density. This is one thing, and unfortunately, after I came to South, I started a project on the Western Ghats. I mean, I covered from Kanyakumari to Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary. I used to walk a lot with my colleague on Raghu. He was then working with NCF. And this is a Mukurti stream. If you go to the Pangitabal in Mukurti National Park, you see the stream. So when I went there, I mean, see that there's no erosion at all. When I went there, I saw that Forest Department had built some 7 or 8 check dams, ugly check dams. I was very angry with the Forest Department. I told them, that the stream is running peacefully for thousands of years. And the officer told me who did that, he told no, there was erosion. I said, go and see on either side, there's no sign of erosion. There are some trout introduced with the British. You can see those small trout. In 7 places, such a beautiful, stream they have blocked actually. I have been telling the Forest Department last 15 years. They have not removed it. It's very sad. And what we can do, so whenever you see such a conservation problem, we have to protest with the tears only, not in anger actually, no use in getting angry about it, but then very easily they can remove it. I should tell them, let us, 10 people can go remove all the rocks and put them in the holes. There are many holes in the grassland, put them and hide it and allow the stream to, flow. Manoj Nair, I'll be showing a picture of him later, an excellent, gifted naturalist. He told me such streams, there are certain endemic dragonflies and damselflies, they occur there, and they need flowing streams. It's an amazing landscape, it's like Ravikulam also in Kerala, we have a landscape. And one Britisher, who visited that landscape some 200 years ago, he wrote, surpassingly grand and incomparably beautiful. Douglas Hamilton, surpassingly grand and incomparably beautiful. The same is applicable to our Mukurti National Park and the Nilgiris also. And one should do some experiments on the forest. Once I was staying in the forest rest house in Bandipur, Kalkari Forest Rest House, and there was a 4-year-old sambar stag. I think the staff, when they rescued it from the wild dog as a calf, and it was growing around the rest house only. And so that one day we went for a long walk and came, and I had put my shirt on the veranda. It came and chewed my shirt because of the salt, Anyhow, there was in front of the rest house one day I saw that langur sitting and they were eating the teak leaves. And in the forest, even the young teak leaves, if you take the young leaves and squeeze them, you will get a blood like juice coming out. In the forest, you don't find any feeding sign on the young teak leaves. Here, a sambar stag was there, and under the teak tree where the langur were feeding, there was a lot of leaves. So I took some leaf and gave it to this sambar stag. It ate it. So gradually, I dragged the stag, giving some leaves below the tree. It ate all the teak leaves. So it's very interesting because inside the forest, you don't find any, feeding sign, but I could see what you call cafeteria experiment. Okay. This is a huge problem. When I did my wild dog study in Bandipur, there was no Cassia spectabilis. It's an exotic, awarded even by Sambar. Sambar is more like our goat. Tamil, they say goat meat is very good for people. Even for people who are sick, they can eat goat meat because it eats everything. Sambar also eats everything, but even sambar does not eat this plant. It's a huge problem in the lower Nilgiris. In the moist areas, it is taken over. I mean, wrongly people, it's called spectabilis. Look at the color, beautiful flowers. For that, people in the forest department, somebody planted the tree within the forest area near the rest house. Maybe now there is huge problem throughout the lower Nilgiris in Wayanad and in Bandipur and Satyamangalam, moist areas. Everywhere is a huge problem. And forest department, it has lost what to do. I mean, in Bandipur one day, I plucked some leaves of this Gladicedia. This is again an exotic from South America. Both are from South America. And in near Bandipur, in forest rest of the cheetal used to come and aggregate at night. So I put both the branches of both the species there. Next day morning, when I went and checked, I found, these leaves were eaten. Leaves of Gladicedia was eaten, but not that of, Cassia spectabilis. This is one, this one tree, Cassia fistula, which can match with many of the exotic trees in beauty. The flowers are excellent. March, April, they flower. Two animals benefit from this. One is a sloth bear. When the fruits are ripe, black, long fruits, sloth bear, they love to feed on it. And porcupine, they like to feed on the roots actually. Okay. But it's a fabulous tree. I think Kerala is very, very important. I think one festival is, related to this flowering of it. See, the Westerners, they came and they did a lot of good things also, like making medicine, railway track, and postal service, and so on. But unfortunately, they brought many unwanted plants, exotics, which is causing an enormous problem in our country, actually. Look at this Hypomia carnea, enemy of the freshwater bodies. Against this plant also, we are helpless, actually. In Wildlife Institute, there is one water body. The plant is there. I told them, you please, as an example, you try to eradicate it. They are not able to do that. So many of the water bodies, if you go to Assam, it's totally overgrown with this. Hypomia and Acarnia, all are exotic. So Assam people, they go to the extent of importing fish in Andhra. I should tell Assam people, you have Brahmaputra, you have so many water bodies, you should be importing fish. If you are able to get rid of all these weeds, with the help of the villages and promote fish farming. See that water body closer to Western Ghats, southern end of Western Ghats, totally taken over with this Hypomia. So no bird, like ducks and all, they cannot go and sit there because no bird will go and sit on the margin. And people say that as it is not eaten by animals, there could be some toxic substance which can affect the fish population also. Okay. This is one plant again, and at least 120 square kilometers south and southeast of Mudumale Wildlife Sanctuary is under Opansha delineate. Even in Anamale Tiger Reserve, 2 ranges are under this plant. 120 or 150 square kilometers under Opansha. Fortunately, here again, no management action. It's easy to remove, but they will keep coming. So, say conservation is a never-ending battle. By doing work for 1 week, you can't say that I had done enough for conservation. No, I think it's a never-ending battle. It's a very interesting thing. Look at the sore patch of the sambar and the picture I took it in Bandipur. Bandipur, in the upper Nilgiris, if you go, there is no sore patch. Look at the stag now. This is upper Nilgiris, no sore patch. Like Carpet Rajaji, no sore patch. And if you go to Kaziranga, you find animals with sore patch. In Jaldapura, there are animals with sore patch. And no one has given a proper explanation for that, actually. Dr. Krishnamurthy, one elephant doctor, famous elephant doctor, Tamil Nadu, he did some histological studies. He found there was no difference between that patch and the nearby patch in the histology, actually. George Schaller, he wrote in his book, Deer and the Tiger, that the sore patch may be useful for leaving some, there is some fluid and all exuding and marking, they may use it. Then it should be present in all the stags, all the sambar, Interestingly, it grows as a small spot. Both the male and the female, they have it. During the breeding season, it will be very big. video. So in the breeding season, it starts, I mean, in the beginning starts as a small hole, and the breeding season, it can be 9 inches and 6 inches size actually. It will blood red in color, some fluid will be oozing, small, I mean, what I call eye flies will be hovering around. These fantail flycatchers will sit on the back of that sambar and feed on it. But so the sambar population, that sour patch is a very interesting phenomenon. I used to say sambar conservation is tiger conservation, the hilly areas. If Corbetandal has got a high density of tiger, one reason is good sambar population. Chilla, for example, from where the Gujas have been resettled, very good, I mean, sambar population, good number of tigers there actually. So sambar conservation is tiger conservation in the hilly area. Okay, in UP, Uttar Pradesh, entire UP may have only 100 sambar because there are no hills, Hills and sambar and tiger do very well. That one has to remember actually. So Dole is a peerless predator. Dole such a chital kill like this picture in 70s and till 2000. This was the best, wild dog picture available actually. David McDonald has brought out the 2 volumes of this mammal volume. In both the volumes, and they have used my article and the picture. Then he told me he is in Oxford University, great authority on wildlife, and he told me that there is, we could not find a picture better than this. And they wild dog, they whistle. So I used to carry a metal cartridge, empty shell. With that, I used to mimic the whistling call of wild dog. And one day whistled, that was in 1976, September. There was a lot of alarm calls in an area. So I went there, it was about to get dark, maybe a kilometer from Bandipur. I stood behind a big tree and whistled like using that, metal, cartridge, empty cartridge. I whistled like a wild dog, a tiger came out charging. Fortunately, it did not see me. I was behind a tree, it came out growling, looked around and away. Because wild dog and tigers are competitors for the same type of prey. So when I whistled, it thought there was a pack of wild dogs, so it came out charging. And I met this fellow when I was doing my Western Ghats survey work. He got a very interesting story. He told me one day he was walking with his wife, and there was a sloth bear on the rock. And this fellow, maybe to show off, threw a stone at the sloth bear. It came and bit him. But with this knife, he slashed the snout of the sloth bear. The sloth bear screamed and ran away. And he said after a week, they found the sloth bear dead. So, when you see an animal, from a distance, if you make some sound, animals can run away. George Scheller, when he was studying this, Kashmir stag in Kashmir, and whenever he saw that black bear, interestingly, in Dachigam, the black bear are not very aggressive. But whenever he saw that he'll walk in such a way, the wind will carry the smell to the black bear. The black bear will run away from that place, So, okay, I was in Gir, 2009 February. We were walking from one end of Gir to other end. With Pranav Trivedi, one of our Wildlife Institute students, working with the NCF, and we watched Pandavar. And while walking, I was ahead of them, and I saw this young male. So when you see a dangerous animal, you should not approach it directly. So I diagonally did not look into the eyes of the lion and walk diagonally. But when I went fairly close, I started, flattening the, ear and gave a soft growl, and then it ran away actually. Very, very important. When you approach it, even Wildlife Institute campus, there's a lot of, rhesus macaques. Huge problem. I used to say North India is ruled by rhesus macaque. Poor people, they can't grow any, crops there. A lot of crop damage, and they attack people also. And I should tell the people that, if you see an aggressive male sitting with the females, when you walk that way, don't look into the eyes of the male. If you look into the eyes of the male, and it is like challenging it. See, people used to say that belly ridge, in the case of the Asiatic lion, that is only Asiatic lions has this belly ridge. It's last September, I was in Botswana. I took this picture of this male. They also, some of them families barely rich. And while doing the Western Ghats work, and we were walking in the Moya River, which flows through from Bandipur and Mudumale and so on. And there was a tigress with the two cubs. The tigress was looking in the other side direction, maybe some 20 meters away. Two cubs were playing nearby. And the window, I mean, sun was behind us. And the wind was also in our favor. Anyway, elephant, tigers cannot smell like a dog or pigs or a bear actually. They don't have the powerful sense of smell because their face is flat. Only animals with a long snout have the great power of sense of smell actually. And then when me and my colleague Raghu went closer, got up and growled. That's on fifth number. I took a picture hurriedly, and then the growl was for the cubs only, largely. Both the cubs ran in the bush. So this is on 14th March, we were doing some market survey with the WASI, Wildlife Association of South India. Then while going, others had gone ahead. When I came to this Nalla, I heard the alarm call of Chital, Langur and Sambar. Then I knew some animals coming because before where I was standing, there was huge pool of water in this Nalla. So I went and stood behind a tree. And I saw this tiger coming. But that day I made a mistake of telling a colleague who was on the other side, gave a signal to him. He also had the alarm clock. That man, Karthik is from Tamil Nadu, actually working in Bangalore. He made I will say, stupid thing of coming and sitting in the open area with his long legs. So the tiger saw him and ran away. But I got this nice picture. Had I not informed that this fellow Karthik, the tiger would have come to the water in front of me, I would have got some lovely pictures. But I was afraid of because I was on foot and suppose it is coming with the cubs. I was a little worried. This is, I think, 29th December 2016, the Tirukkural range, southernmost range in Kalakkad Mundandre. I went to a water hole. When I went there was sambar, and I told the staff in the evening I would like to come and wait for the sambar. The wind was blowing, from the water hole towards me. So sat among the bushes, maybe some 10 meters away from the water hole. It's a solar powered water hole. So I told the two staff, you sit behind some 150 meters behind, because they told me there are some sloth there, there are one tusker around. I was sitting on the ground. Then something came. I thought it was an elephant coming because you're so big. I thought he will come and drink water from that side and go away. But what was, that solar power, the pump of water was flowing from my side. So he started coming towards me. So it became I was really afraid because in a Gaur it can attack people. And if they attack, they don't hit with that, head. They use that tip of the horns like a dagger and can split you actually. Okay. And so when it came closer to me, I shouted at it. It ran. But it was, anyhow. Take care of limbs. Very, very important. One should play vigorous games. To be good field worker, because I am against, in the sense, I should tell people don't play only cricket because it does not give you enough exercise. Basketball, football, hockey, all should don't play. When I was young, I was very fortunate to play football. My father was a physical education teacher. I used to play football, volleyball, and in Madras Christian College, I was in the team and so on. Very, very important. But when you play, you have to be very, very, you should take care of your limbs. Darshell, the iconic for a building, and he had come to Rajaji, had come to Wildlife Institute. We went to Himachal then. He avoided playing rough games. He knew, that American football and other games are very rough. So he was very, very careful. He never played rough games, actually. He knew that, if he damages his leg, he won't be able to climb the mountains. Brilliant naturalist. Unfortunately, his health is not good, then he can identify butterflies and fishes and plants, right? Exceedingly well. He can talk very well. Karthik Srinivasan in Jungle Lodges, an amazing person. And he's very fond of focusing on smaller animals like that, butterflies and moths and spiders. And this Justice Joshua, he was working in our institute. Again, a very brilliant naturalist. Once, while we were in the institute, on the top of a eucalyptus tree, there was an warbler. And one another person, he was also fairly good with birds. He was trying to identify the warbler with the binocular, but just said, what species it is. Very nice fellow. Manoj Nair, I mean, he's a gifted naturalist actually. He's now working in the Mussoorie Academy actually. He writes exceedingly well. And Vivash Pandav, and he's a very talented field biologist in Lagabaga. Acquire knowledge from books, it's very, very important. So much is written. Recently, I read through one book called No Passport to Tibet. No Passport to Tibet. I mean, I wrote summarized the wildlife records in that book, wrote a nice article. I sent it to our Murthy. I asked him to, send it to the members of your Deccan Bird Watchers. I don't know whether he has done it or not. And please, Murthy, if he has not done it, do that. Very nice article I have written about it. So we can learn a lot about nature. This is, the travel we did on Bailey. He got injured he was wounded in the First World War thrice actually. And he and Marshead, unfortunately, get murdered when he was working in Burma later. They would go and survey this Brahmaputra landscape. Very good book. So if anybody is interested in that article, I can send it to you if you send an email to me. Because it is already used with Mr. Murthy actually. Okay. So it's very fascinating read through that book. Learn to work with a dedicated lady. This is my friend who is no more, unfortunately. Initially had throat cancer. Then he had in the liver cancer. He died at the age of 72. Very fine officer actually. See, this is like a corridor. I took this picture from Chilla. This is a Ganges here flowing. This is what you call Chilla Motichur corridor. This is a Motichur Rao. This is a Haridwar town. This is the army camp. The corridor needs to be established here only. Simplest corridor. So I had told them, when I left the institute, then they asked me to come. I told him, fly. There is this Haridwar in this state, Rishikesh this state, lot of traffic. Told them to build a 1 kilometer flyover. Okay. And the railway track, and there are underpasses. The animals can use the Motichur Rao also. No person can encroach the Rao because the rainy season, lot of flood will be there. Simplest corridor in the country. We're not done it. We're not established for the last 30 years. These are the things which make you worry about our country. Small things we are not able to do. Simple thing, army ammunition dump. They have an army ammunition dump. They are not willing to shift it somewhere here. And and the flyover still, I don't know. BC may would have seen it recently. And so this side I was telling there are now only 2 tigers, 2 females. And the barber grass cutting is not a problem on the Chilla side because there's no Shivalix. On this side there is Shivalix. So only on the Shivalix and on the barber grass grows actually. And so these are some of the suggested reading. Lot of books. And recently Shankaraman, has written a poetic, nice book, Second Wild Heart of India. And Sanjay Dubey, another colleague, has written a book called Second Nature, where he talks about just good ideas for conservation. A lot of books. Even I have written 3 popular books. And I used to tell all the forest officers, everybody, they should read Jim Carver books. Shaller has written amazing books. I think that's the end of my talk. This is very important. One should be a honest naturalist. This is only then you will be believed and respected actually. You can tell stories. But people will come to know, For example, one student in the Wildlife Institute, he said in a 300 square kilometer, Rajaji, western side of Ganges, 300 square kilometer, he said he had 1 kilometer transects. And he said even in the rainy season, he walked everywhere. I mean, he thought I knew, since we knew the landscape, that, rainy season, it's very slippery, nobody can do the transect. So he was asked to leave the institute actually, So what I'm saying, one should be very honest. Whatever you see, you should record, you should not make up stories. If you make up stories, eventually you'll be discovered and, you will lose respect. Okay. So that's all.
Thank you so much, John Singh sir. That was indeed a lovely presentation and an insight into how we can be a naturalist. I think the first most thing which you said is being honest with ourselves. Am I correct? Hello.
Hello, I'm listening.
Yes. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the talk. Now I'm just gonna take some questions from anyone who would like to ask. So you can please messages in the chat, and we will take your questions, please. So I have one first question from Rajshekhar. Is could the exceeding population of dholes culled as they are becoming exceeding their alpha predators in Kawal Tiger Reserve?
What do you mean? I mean, you mean to say that the whole population is increasing?
Yes. So the dhole population is increasing in Kawal Tiger Reserve. So what Mr. Rajshekhar asks is, can they be culled as they are becoming the alpha predators over there?
The same thing happening in Dampa also. Dampa Tiger Reserve in Mizoram, there are no tigers. See, one good thing about, I will say, good thing about dhole is, they're very susceptible to diseases. When I started my wild dog study in 1973 with one Michael Fox, Professor Michael Fox from America, in the Saigur range, if anybody has traveled in that from Matsunagudi to Ooty, you climb that Ghat road. At the base of there we saw a pack of 19 dogs in 73, 75, and again we went, second time also he came, we went, there are no wild dogs. No wild dogs.
Okay.
They are very susceptible to diseases. For example, Jarshalar, when it is a deer and the tiger study in Kana, there were no wild dogs. But later they came. So, I mean, they're very susceptible to diseases. For example, when you read about the Corbett, Rajaji landscape, there were wild dogs in the past. Now they have disappeared. 20 years of my stay in Rajaji, only once I saw one dog. And so the population will increase, but they die off. I mean, particularly rabies, they die of rabies. Recently, when the Sanjay, fantastic forest officer, our student from Wildlife Institute in Dehradun, he called me, sir, there is one wild dog attacking people. And I told him, then it should be a rabid wild dog. So, I mean, they found several wild dogs dead also. So the disease will take care of them. Disease will take care of them. You need not worry about it. But Kawal, I went to Kawal also for 1 or 2 days. Enormous snaring was going on. I don't know what's the situation now. And
It is almost similar, sir. It's almost similar now.
yeah, because it has some connectivity with it. I mean, Tatoba, I was told there are some reservoirs and some problems are there.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I walked and I drove. I saw only rhesus macaques. I think rhesus macaques sitting on the roadside and so on. I did not see any prey. There are very little prey, maybe some chitan. And then people told me that, snaring is a huge problem in that area. See, one thing that you are for our Andhra people, I still, Srisalem, there is one area, I mean, perfect place for reintroduction of Gaur. I mean, you should think about reintroducing Gaur there. I mean, one record by this American Air Force, they talk about bison in that area. Bison means, in those days they would have called the Gaur only.
It's Indian Gaur.
And
Yes.
I think you should pursue that idea here that, some funny name. In the part of Sri Salem, some 1200 square kilometer area, fantastic Gaur area, hilly, and there are nice streams and so on.
Yes.
And,
Actually, we have Farhabad, sir. We have Farhabad.
It could be Farhabad, Vatwalapalli area.
Yes.
No. Ganga, G starts in G. Gundala Parameshwaram.
No, that's
Gundala Parameshwaram is, it's a contiguous area with Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Salem Tiger Reserve.
Yes.
And it's a good grassland plus woody vegetation combined.
Gundala Parameshwaram also has a
My point is, you should pursue the idea of bringing back Gaur. See, all around that, all the states have Gaur. Orissa has got Gaur, Madhya Pradesh has Gaur, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. So that's perfect. You should, I mean, you were a Deccan bird watchers, you should pursue something like that. And Rahul Pandey, when he was the field director there, he took me around for 3 days. Then only I looked at that habitat. Only problem I saw that was a phoenix. The phoenix, Kalis, plenty of that. Otherwise, a fabulous area. You people should do such things actually. Instead of only bird watching will not help in conservation.
Actually, there is a small population of Gaur in Kawar Tiger Reserve, which we shot. I think it was shot by us in 2016 and also reported to the Forest Department. And even the department had actually put up posters of the Gaur and other things. So yes, I mean, there is not a healthy population of Gaur in the state, but I wouldn't say reintroduction. So probably look at how more Gaurs can be, what is the threat for them, or are they actually going back to another habitat or another area? That has to be checked.
No, what I am saying, there is a 1200 square kilometer area, beautiful area.
Correct, sir.
And I was speaking to Mr. Pabla in Madhya Pradesh. He told me we will happily give you some Gaur. I mean, these are the things one should do in conservation, reintroduction. Madhya Pradesh has done amazing work. That's the only state still alive with conservation work, actually. And you have an area, I think, which all of you should join together and convince the forest department, the politicians, and take some Gaur to Gundala Parameshwara, the sanctuary. I have a teacup with the name of that sanctuary, actually. Always, okay.
Yes.
So dolls will take care of themselves, don't worry. I mean, you can't tell them actually. Dampa Tiger Reserve, although they call it Tiger Reserve, there's a very good sambar population in Dampa, some 300-400 square kilometer area. Wild dogs are having a good feast on the sambar. And so the disease will take care of them. Monitor them, and monitor the population.
Yes. And also, sir, now next question is from JVD Murthy. JVD Murthy, sir, his question is, would all...
No, let me, I asked JVD Murthy to distribute that article to everybody. Did he do that? I want to ask him the question.
No, sir, not yet. I was waiting for this talk to be over. I'll send it out now.
No. That was sent to you nearly 10 days ago.
Yes, I was waiting for this talk to get over. I thought I'll distribute it after the talk.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The icing on the cake.
Okay.
Sure. So, JVD sir's question is, would all animals behave the same way? That is, would the behavior of all animals, especially towards human beings, be the same? Or should be prepared for alternatives as well?
I didn't understand the question. What is
JVD uncle, would you like to?
Yeah, like the example that was given, that we should not stare an animal down or walk diagonally away from a lion or similar kind of behavior when it comes to dealing with animals. Would all of them generally come under the same category, or would some of them even charge if you are looking away, for example?
Suppose there is a man-eating tiger, that trick will not work.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See, one day, in Arunachal Pradesh, I was staying in a rest house, the next room, one forest officer was staying. And while talking in the evening, he told me, how we are safe in the forest. I mean, when we encounter a tiger, we look into the eyes of the tiger will run away. So I told him, how is it possible to look into the eyes of the tiger and chase it away? And he said, that's what we foresters, we do that. I did not believe that I was laughing, so he got angry with me. So, see, deer lions, that they are fairly tame, fairly tame. In those days, when I have already called 5 lions, when Ravichandran was, we did the work, and we used to walk with a stick only. And if the lions, those days, they used to tie the pada, to attack lions actually. And even if you take a black bag and in front of the lions, you drag and go, they'll follow the bag, thinking that you are taking a buffalo. The deer lions, they're not very aggressive like the African lion. You can't do the same trick with African lions. I mean, deer, I knew that, they're, because I have seen many times lions. And so that's the reason I approached diagonally, not looking to the eyes of the lion. But even then, it was keeping that, once I remember in Gir, I was going with a dense patch of tall grass, and in front of me, maybe 20 feet away, something black, more like a rat twitching. And that is a lion was lying there, face towards me, and it was a warning signal. It was a warning signal, when it is flicking the tail tip like that, it's a warning signal. So I told all my colleagues who were coming to me, get back, it's a lion. What I'm saying, some places animals are habituated. For example, elephants, now if you go to, you may have seen some articles about the Chittalwalk, one Mark Davidar and one Tusker. And a wild Tusker became very close to him. Mark Davidar is no more, but Tusker is still wandering around. People, it's not harassing people. And so it can vary from place to place, behavior of the animals.
But the tribals know the trick in handling a musk elephant. The picture you showed was amazing. An elephant.
Yeah. And that, putting the axe, hanging from the earlobe by the kurba, amazing in that tradition. What I'm saying, we should not lose that traditional knowledge. Very, very important. Look at the boys, the children riding on the back of that elephant. And I saw them, the elephant was running very fast. The fellows were very happy, sitting there, nothing to hold on. They had only a stick. Then we stopped them, it's close to the Kabini reservoir actually. Belle elephant camp. I asked them to stop. We got this picture actually. I have another picture of a young boy sitting on the top of a tusker in a Tapagod elephant camp. And that boy alone can take the tusker to the river with the bath and bring it back. This capability is available only with these 2 tribal communities, Malasar community in Annamalai and the Kurba community in Mudumalai and Bandipur, which do not lose that capability. That is my.
Then, Dr. Sir, what prevents us from adopting these tribal customs to train the officers and the people in the forests?
Say there was one Udayan, forest officer, he is under high post in Chennai now. Even now, those tribals in Annamalai, they very fondly remember him. So we need excellent officers, if you want to, protect these traditions and cultures actually. At all levels, we need dedicated officers, rangers, ACF, DFOs, all the officers, that is very difficult. That is very difficult, particularly in our country.
Thank you, sir.
That's the end.
Yeah,
Shrikant? We have one more question actually. Two more questions. One, Bharati, he asked, someone told me that identifying birds and animals by their calls should be the last technique. What is your advice?
So recently, Shankar Raman from Valparai, he made a presentation about that bird populations in Valparai. And then one question was asked by Sanjay Gubi, how did you identify them? He said, I identified most of them by bird calls. If I go only by, direct sightings, I would have identified only 20% of the birds. So the identification of the birds using the bird calls is very, very important. That again comes with practice. Everybody can't do that. Like I was telling Justice Joshua, he was able to do that. Manoj Rayar can do that. And Ranjit Ranit can do that. Not everybody, not everybody. I mean, yesterday morning I was working, I had an owl sound just outside. I mean, it's not our normal, our wolves. There is a barn owl also. But I have to identify what it is. So, I mean, it needs a lot of practice, particularly when you are young, if you have started learning to identify the birds using these calls, that remains in memory. When you become a bit old, it's difficult for you to, become an expert to identify the birds using the calls.
And so one question from my side actually. Previously in Bandipur, in Bandipur area, we have this area called Minister Kerekate. I think you might be knowing that area inside the forest.
Minister Guti.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So, sir, previously it was considered as, we were not allowed to go for any safaris or anything over there, but now we are allowing the safaris, and subsequently the tiger population which was in that area, especially Gauri, for example, she stopped visiting that area. Is that correct?
I don't know. I've not gone to Bandipur for at least 2 years.
Oh,
but
okay.
I took
Gauri was almost 10 years ago. This was during the Bandipur safari zoning time, safari tracks which were zoning in the zoning committee that was discussed. So Gauri was a frequent visitor to that area. Gauri is, guys, by the way, is the name of the tigress of that area. So
I'm sorry, I don't know anything much about it, but I took my the tiger picture from that one mango tree in Minister Kuti Nalla.
Minister
It's about some two.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So the wildlife, because of this tourism, or I wouldn't say tourism exactly, but the safaris which have been going inside the core areas, to some extent of the core areas, or the buffer zone increasing in these core areas, would this cause a problem? Wouldn't this be a problem in the long run for us?
So if it is a controlled tourism, that animals get habituated actually. The tourists should behave well actually. See, for example, I remember going in a bus in Bandipur one day with a group of people. A sloth bear came. My God, everybody shouted and screamed and came to that side of the bus, to see the sloth bear. Sloth bear ran away. That's what I'm saying. Silence in the forest is a must. Silence if you want to hear the bird song, if you want to see the animals without disturbing them, silence is very, very important. George Schaller has written in Kana. Kana, if you go to, he has written that mahouts, should be silent. If you go to Kashiranga, when they locate the rhinos, everybody they talk from the elephant man. The rhinos, they're used to, habituated, but in the forest, that is, unethical to talk loud and make noise. And so if you behave properly, that even in the core area, people can visit and come. Some amount of visitation is very, very important. Actually, when Uttaranchal was created in 1999 or 2000, in the core area of Corbett Tiger Reserve, some 7 or 8 tuskers were poached by the Lishu tribes from Arunachal Pradesh. And they were using what you call this crossbow with poison arrows and killed them. Because I went for a postmortem of a tusker and I saw that inside the stomach along with the other stomach contents. It has penetrated inside and gone. When Mr. Negi was as a field director and we went with that one MSc batch, the Vivash Pandav and Charudat Mishra, that batch, we have went and stayed in that Paterpani rest house. He allowed us to do that. But after that, many officers used to say, no, you can't go to the core area. Just by designing an area by core area on paper will not protect that area. There should be some amount of monitoring, protection, and so on. So the core area, 6-7 tuskers got poached, and all the tusks and everything were taken away. We could not get those poachers also.
Yes, yes, sir. So thanks, sir. I mean, yeah, I think it doesn't matter if it's a core area or the buffer zone. It's just that how we behave inside the forest and around these animals, they matter a lot. Correct.
Yeah, agree.
Yes, sir. And also, sir, I would just like to know your experience about the barred tree skink, which was named after you.
Which one?
Dacia Johnsongi. So
this is in Mundandarai, that in the Tambravarni River, which is a life line of for the Tirunelveli district.
yes.
Me and Ajay Desai, is a famous elephant expert now. Then we were starting the elephant project for BNHS. And one tribal, and we were walking there, one Kani tribal. And then I saw up in the branch, the green skink. Okay, so that's a tribal boy went up and shook the branch, mango tree. It fell down on the rivers and immediately it burrowed. So anyway, we caught it. We got some pictures, and even BNHS used this in their calendar. And it was, Mr. Daniel, J.C. Daniel, who was adopted and identified. This is a Dacia Galliana. So till then, they were, the report was, it was found only in Sri Lanka. So that was the first record for, India, Dacia Galliana. After that, in many places, they started seeing it, particularly in Kalakad Mundandarai Tiger Reserve. So that Karthik Vasudevan, who is working in Hyderabad now, fantastic person, another fantastic person. I think with him only, with his son only, I went to Kaval actually. And so they have given my name to that. Dacia. Earlier name was Dacia Galliana. It's a beautiful animal. If you want, I can send the picture to you people. You can see that.
Yes.
The first picture of Dacia Galliana taken in India.
That will be lovely. You have a picture handy, sir, which you can show to our users. Our listeners.
I have, but I don't know how to do that. It is.
Actually, I think it should be on.
It is on my screen.
Yes, sir. You may want to present your screen, sir, for us to view
Huh?
that. You should present your screen for us to view that, sir.
Share screen.
Huh?
Share screen.
I can email it to you. Sorry, I'm not able to do that.
No,
Share screen. No.
that is Vijay Deepak's photograph.
On the bottom row, you have participants, chat, share screen, record, and reactions. So you need to click on share screen.
The green button, sir, center of the screen.
It's shown in the green color with an up arrow.
I see my presentation only, but
It's Vijay Deepak's photograph, correct, sir?
which one?
Your photo, skink.
No, I took the picture.
You took.
Those, I don't know how to do that. Yes, it is on my. I'm not able to. I can email it to you. You can share.
Yes, sir, we will share it with everybody.
Yeah, I'll send it right now.
Sure.
to, yeah.
Thanks. And sir, just to let you know, so there are so many listeners over here who have enjoyed your talk thoroughly, and some of the words are used. Thanks for sharing your experiences and stories from wilderness. It was very insightful and helpful for young naturalists like me. There was lots of thank yous for you, and yes, sir, and people are.
But as I told you please pursue that idea of
Gaur, Indian Gaur.
Gaur introduction. Even Karthik was interested. He was in touch with me. And Rahul Pandey was very keen. Then he got, transferred from that plate. Our, what was his forest officer, Joseph? He was also.
A.V. Joseph, Mr. A.V. Joseph.
He was also very keen, but that he also never retired, I think.
Yeah.
So I think you please pursue such things. It's very important to know. You have a nice area, fabulous 1200 square kilometer area. Even in like this Anshitandali, now they call it Kali Tiger Reserve after the river. So your Sirisalam Nagarjuna Sarasa Tiger Reserve should be called as a Krishna Tiger Reserve. And that the river is flows through that for 60-70 kilometers. The BC has traveled along the river. And you will be surprised on the 85th December, I saw 5 tigers. One evening, I saw 4 tigers. We were walking with the diploma class. I had tiger calling. We sat on the road. December evening, late in the evening, it was misty. I think 3-4 tigers walked in front of us, 30-40 feet in front of us. We were sitting in a bunch, 6-7 of us. The tiger did not see us. One officer who was with me was, Unyal, who retired as PCC from Kerala. He was working in Wildlife Institute of Valsio. So 3 tigers walking in front of, and another was calling. And then later we saw one more tiger.
I was.
Huh? What do you say?
I was.
It's not clear. I don't know.
Somebody was saying something. Which
That was BC. That was BC on the mic. His audio is not clear.
I know. I heard BC.
I think he was saying that he was with you during that time. Am I correct, BC sir?
Jagan Mohan Rao was the field director. He gave us. Where is he living now, Jagan Mohan Rao?
He is in US with his children.
He is in US.
Yeah, he's very much alive. He's with his son in US now.
Okay, he was a field director, an amazing person.
Yeah, he was field director, Nagarjuna Sagar Srisalam Tiger Reserve. Now it is divided into 2 tiger reserves, Mr. John Singh.
No, I'm aware of that. But,
Yeah,
the Krishna River.
And the proposed area which you are recommending for the Gaur reintroduction falls in Andhra Pradesh area, now popularly known as GBM, Gundla Brahmeshwaram Sanctuary. GBM is popularly it is known as.
We were there 5 days. He gave us amazing food. Faridabad, a place called Faridabad.
Farhabad. That is Farhabad. And I remember I worked in that area, and that was the earlier Shikarga of the Nizam of Hyderabad. So there was an old dilapidated guest house. In front of that, your huts were prepared, I was told,
I know. We stayed there.
Yeah, I worked in that area for some time. So that was the fantastic tiger country.
Yes.
They're only close to that only when we went for the walk, we saw 3 tigers walking across the road. 4th one was calling in the bush.
Yeah.
That night again, we saw one more, 5 tigers. But only 7 ungulates we saw. Anyhow, we were staying for 5 days, amazing food he gave us. Hyderabad biryani and everything, and And at the end, we asked him, sir, how much we should pay. He said, pay 50 rupees
Okay.
for 5 days.
Yeah.
We went to Srisalam area there. One day we stayed there, and they're excellent idli, sambar, chutney, and dosa.
Yeah,
But
that's
here
right.
in the, I think there you can't eat non-vegetarian in the temple area, yeah.
Yeah, that's a temple area. Non-vegetarian is not served there.
But when we were camping there, amazing food, lunch and dinner, and those days we were young and we ate a
Yeah.
lot.
So thank you. So, I mean, anyone has any more questions? You can please type in the chat. So
Yes.
thank you so much, John Singh sir. We have
Okay.
Thank you very much, John Singh sir. Thanks a lot. It was really very interesting to have walked with you, north to south, east and west. It's something that I was not able to do, not being a naturalist. And your article shall be shared right now as the talk is over. This will go as the icing on the cake. Thanks a lot, Bugs and Pamela, for joining in, listening in.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Thank you.
We are looking forward for your talk next week.
On Saturday, Pamela would be giving us a talk on Saturday. We look forward to that, Pamela.
Did it whistle? Did it whistle like a wild dog? They're called as whistling dogs.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
I mean, I'm calling like with my pen cap actually. So if you see wild dog in the forest, I mean, you hide among the bushes and whistle. They come closer, and if the wind is not helping them, it will come closer to you. They don't attack. Remember, I showed the picture of 15 dogs on that Chittal kill. I used to go and collect a jar for to age the animal. So I mean, I dragged the kill closer to the tree, small tree, blutia tree, and I climbed and sat. 5 meters away, they were feeding actually. So when I approached to drag the kill, 15 dogs, they growled and ran away. So they're not, I mean, one day one range officer told me, sir, if you run in front of them, they will attack you, chase you and attack you. So one day I saw 9 dogs coming and I ran towards a tree, thinking, if they chase me, that I can climb the tree. They all ran in opposite direction.
Okay.
So using this whistle, you can attract wild dogs, so you can take some nice pictures.
Okay.
Right.
I think we have to get hold of that empty cartridge.
No, I'm using a pen cap.
Yeah, so I have to consult Rajiv and get hold of an empty cartridge, metal cartridge, so that I can make that sound.
Listen, listen.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm using the pen cover only.
Okay. Okay.
Rajiv is a farmer hunter, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using that pen, I mean, I tried before the meeting, I tried with the 2 pen caps, and this is perfect.
Yeah. And before we close, can I just recall some of my experiences? I mean, very briefly, for a couple of minutes only, from our orientation tour to Rajaji, Mr. John Singh. Yeah, you took our tour. We were about 18 of us in the 12th diploma, way back in 1990.
Did we climb the Goral Ridge? Did we climb the Goral Ridge?
Yes. We went to Goral Ridge along with you. And in fact, you were telling some habitat factors on the bank of a small Rao. As you have told, the Rao is a small rivulet, a small stream. And we had to go the other side of the stream. And after giving the details of the habitat available in that area, we had to go, and we were preparing ourselves to cross that small stream. maybe we were planning to remove our shoe and fold up our pants. But you led the way by walking into the water along with your shoe, socks, and pants not folded. And we all followed later on after some hesitation. I think to be a real naturalist, you have to have this kind of instinct also.
You know, interestingly, Dolkand area, there is no human settlement. So we used to drink from the stream. And there will be tiger pug mark, elephant tracks, and nearby and everything. We should drink from the stream. So only the humans can make the water filthy.
I remember. You drank from a forest pool near Dholkand. This is Vishal here, sir. Vishal.
Okay.
You remember we went on a Transact. Karthik was with us.
Okay.
Drank from a pool right in front of us. It was green in color, and you dropped on your hands and drank from it. I still remember.
Okay, Vishal.
So Johnson sir, can one have your author signed books from you if one can send it to your address?
You know, this WWF lady there in Hyderabad.
Farida.
And, you know, I was planning, she was inviting me. She said, sir, we want to take you to see some areas. But unfortunately, nothing happened actually. You know, we could not fix a time. And you can do that actually, sending, you're sending the book, I'm sending it back. It will be very cumbersome. And let's hope that, this virus will die out and I'll be able to come to Hyderabad and see people there, and then I can sign. I don't know.
Wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking. The way the virus is threatening the entire mankind.
Yeah,
Sad.
I think so.
Sad. You see, you are still in the same house.
Yes.
Not moved to.
Very much.
Not moved to.
Next weekend again.
Yeah, Sandy,
We have something again.
just send the links and we will be there.
Yes, please. We will share the links. So on 18th is a talk by Pamela on wildlife ranching, South Africa's greatest success stories. And on Sunday, the 19th, we have a talk by Dr. Suresh Kumar. This is on Amur falcons, a favorite bird for, I think, most of us, falcon. So please join us again. And thank you for being here. Thanks, everyone.
And Suresh makes a beautiful presentation. Very.
Yes.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Okay, Johnson, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye then. Bye.
Bye, Rajiv.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Pam. Bye. Bye. Bye.
No, bye.
Bye, DC.